Yeah, I also thought it was going to be freezing bad as well. But
Yeah, I was like ready, and then I got out, I was like, oh my god, I'm burning up, but I can't go back.
Alright, I'm going to do a 1, 2, 3 sync. And welcome to the Anime NYC podcast. I'm joined today by Derrick Charles and Osjua Newton, and they write this amazing comment, Ninja Express, and they brought a banner today, which I was saying before the show, like, we never really have any props. This is like the coolest the podcast has ever looked, ever. So thank you guys for bringing all this stuff and coming out to promote. I like the shirts and stuff as well. You guys are very prepared, probably more so than I am. But anyways, so Ninja Express, let's talk a little bit about it. I'll do a brief summary and you guys jump in if I look like a jackass. Okay. But so Ninja Express, Otaki is the main character, and he's he wants to join this ninja club at his school. It's sort of in the style of Naruto, or not Naruto, I don't want to compare, but like sort of that universe of just like these ninja clubs exist within these schools, and he doesn't end up in that one, but he ends up in sort of like the B club, and sort of.
They wish it was the B club.
They wish, it was, right? And and then it's sort of like this shoddier version of like the fancy ninja club at school, and eventually he sort of like learns lessons from that club and himself realizes like the benefits of joining that club and participating with these ninjas now, and they kind of embark on this adventure. And I don't want to give too much away so people actually read the fucking book, but anyways, I really, when I first read the book, I like it because it's so on the nose. There's this amazing moment where Otaki sort of exclaims, I'm not meant to be the lead character, or something like that. So I really like that aspect of it. It's like sort of self-aware that it's almost following like this kind of typical manga style, and it knows it, you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's like a big part of the book, but talk about writing it a little bit, and like what's sort of the inspiration, where do you get the idea from?
So when I started writing it, actually before I started writing it, so I started writing it in, I think my last year of college. I was majoring in business management, human resources.
Wow, very creative industry.
And sitting in accounting class, I was realizing I didn't want to do this my entire life.
Jesus.
Like I was in college.
You said it was like your last semester?
It was my last semester. It's too late now. Yeah. Went too deep.
That's awful. I like imagine you like sitting down in class and being like, oh, what? Like, damn, I don't want to do this.
I was like at 20 years of accounting, and I wasn't. Didn't look good. Didn't feel good. So at that time, I was getting back into anime, manga, and comic books. I had I think the semester before that I had a comic book class.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I also took a class like that in college, and
yeah, that was actually the first time I actually read Watchmen. So that was a big influence in getting me back into to comics.
I think that's a big landmark in most comic fans. It's the first time they've read Watchmen. And, it can go so much further than I thought it could, you know.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then when did you two meet too? Because you do the coloring.
Coloring. So how Derrick and I met. So I worked at the college newspaper, photographer, journalist, whatnot, and I was just known as the guy on campus as the camera guy.
Right.
And I met Derrick in one of the club rooms, and he's just a card playing guy playing Yu-Gi-Oh.
Okay. Nice.
So we didn't really meet or talk. Really.
Yeah.
While we met was jury duty.
That's awesome.
I couldn't get him to convict.
Yeah.
You know, doing your civic duty, you know, you be a lifelong friend.
Right.
So we were both there, waiting to get called for a trial, and we just sitting there. Oh, hey, you're a familiar face. Hey, you're a familiar face. Yeah. Oh, let's just sit and talk.
Did we just become best friends?
Yeah.
Hey, you like this? I'm like, oh, okay. Wow.
Let's make a comment.
Exactly.
Like, here's the proximity.
Exactly. We're gonna be serving the same case.
Absolutely.
And from there, I was like, okay. Yeah, we've been interested. Let's chat.
There you go. And so, and then from there, like, so at what point did like the main pre-production of the comic begin?
So I probably worked on Ninja Express alone for maybe about a year.
It was 2 years.
So before I started working with anyone, I got some of the concepts down. It was vastly different. I think originally it was gonna have 3 characters, like a Pokemon-ish character, a mecha pilot, and a ninja girl. And eventually the ninja girl slowly evolved into Sayaka and some of the other concepts.
Right, you can see
from the
like sort of
original,
the
and then
fell off the side.
Then
So I started working with a friend of mine. He did some of the original concepts.
Okay.
But early on, I could, as we went on, I could tell he wasn't as invested in doing this as a career as I was. So
Right.
we went our separate ways.
Sure.
So I spent a few years trying to find people to collaborate with. So one year at Comic-Con, I think that there was a panel called, I don't remember the exact name, but it was something. It was kind of almost like speed dating for comic creators.
Interesting. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I put writer. Then I'd walk around. They would talk. Oh, writers talk to artists, and
Sure.
vice versa.
Right.
So through that panel, I met a group called Pronto Comics.
Right.
So Pronto Comics is a comic collaboration group.
Right.
And they do their own comics, and they try to pair writers
Sure.
and artists together
And
to make
actually,
anthologies.
the first guest we had on the show was Dennis Knight, who writes
Oh,
Pronto.
awesome!
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
so
were
I'm
very
very familiar with Pronto here, but no, that's awesome. I mean, and I can't. We'll talk about Comic-Con a little bit in a minute, but when I was at Comic-Con, that was one of the first booths I went to just to say what's up to Dennis more than anything. But I can't say enough how awesome they are for like local artists and
Yeah, absolutely.
and like help promote people's dreams, and it's like the epitome of independent publishing to the nth degree. So like Pronto's amazing.
Yeah. So like I think I was there for maybe like 6 months before I finally got paired with. Actually, no.
no,
I'm
you
sorry.
had
You're
an
right.
artist first.
So
that
I found one artist, and that didn't go too well. So my very first issue of Ninja Express, I hired an artist, and he was somewhere in California. So I was trying to.
That's
get
not a good start. I think he was
Yeah,
somewhere on the
it
West
was-
Coast. I don't know. He gave me an alias. He asked me for all my bank information.
I don't know why I need to mind me my social security number just to draw this character, but okay.
Yeah.
So
Whatever you need to get it done, right?
so he did the character designs, and that should have been my first time. So I said, "Oh, this character is actually supposed to be shorter than this character. Can you fix that?" He's like, "Sure." So all he did was scrunch the image down.
Oh, jeez.
So
Like
like-
very shy.
Yeah.
and then one of the panel arts that he did, it was just flip the image.
Yeah, so he took some concept art rather than drawing background characters. He took images from the concept art and copy and pasted into the background.
Jeez.
And so for my main character Sayaka, rather than drawing her in 2 panels, he took an image from the concept art and copy and pasted it in. And then in the second and then an additional panel coming up, he did the same thing but flipped it so she's looking the other way.
Wow.
So I couldn't. That was my first time really collaborating with somebody.
Right. And someone who sounds like obviously was just like gunning for a paycheck, like
Yeah, and
which is there's a give and take with freelance, and I think that it's hard because I'm sure that if you want to make a living doing that, you have to take on a lot of projects, some of which you're not passionate about. But it's like you just want to feel like they're hard into something a little bit. You know
Put
what I mean?
some effort.
Right, exactly. Do your job, exactly. No, totally.
So I ended up paying a decent amount for that art because I was desperate. I needed something to get done to show that I was a comic creator. So I didn't have anything done up until that point. And honestly, looking back on it, it makes a nice anecdote, and I did learn a lot from it. Mainly, if you're paying for something, number one, make sure you're working with someone who cares about as much as you.
Right.
And number two, don't settle for shoddy work.
Right.
Like ask for edits, ask for
Sure. And then
Get what you're paying for.
yeah,
what you're paying for,
exactly.
yes, absolutely.
So what ended up of this fabled first disaster issue?
I put a
Well,
smile. I put a smile on my face. I sold it with all my heart, and I found out who my true friends were because they bought it and didn't complain.
Wow.
There are still some copies of it out there.
Oh,
If you're
really?
listening and you want to get a updated version, because I did have my current artist redo issue 1.
Oh,
It's because
cool.
I couldn't live
Yeah.
with that being out there.
Right.
So if you're listening, you have that issue, bring it by our table at some convention, I would trade it in for a new copy.
No, that's a collector's item. Are you kidding me? Now everybody's gonna be hunting for that like,
all these
fabled
issues.
I better not see this on eBay when I get home.
Yeah, right.
But as pretty much because of that comic, I decided to help Derrick.
Yeah.
Because I have.
Jesus Christ, this guy's.
Yeah. Well, no. This
over.
layout's horrible. So I can do better lettering than this. I've worked. I've done graphics half my life. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna help my friend out. But we didn't work together first on Ninja Express. We started working on another comic of his
Oh yeah.
first.
Which book's that?
It was Ruin, right?
Yeah.
Ruin.
Yeah. So so after doing a few issues of Ninja Express, I wanted to try to submit to a company. So I wrote a story called Ruin, which was basically one faction uses magic, one faction uses science, fighting, war, blah blah blah.
Right. Ruin.
Yeah. So that was gonna end up being the name of the war, and war's ruin stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, deep. So. So
He was an accounting major. So I'll just throw that away. No, I'm messing with you.
So I did the writing for that, of course.
Yeah.
We got an artist. This one was even further away. What was he? I think
He was in I want to say Indonesia, either that or Thailand.
yeah, something like that. It was far. It was
way
pretty far.
Southeast Asia area.
Right.
Yeah. So he did the art, he did the lettering, coloring. We got a few
Yeah.
issues printed up. We submitted to Image, never heard back. I was like, okay, that was good, good learning experience. But like, when you're doing comics, I feel like you can't like take any setback you have just as a setback. Try to learn
Right.
something from
Yeah,
it.
and not for nothing, like almost talent aside, like do you know how many submissions Image gets? Like,
Absolutely, yeah,
like
absolutely.
too many. And when like I think it's like there's a lot of nepotism involved, I'm sure, and like that's certainly good advice to young creators because that's also a big part of the podcast is sort of inspiring others, and I think that's a huge thing is where it's like. You submit something and you don't get an answer back. It's like, and then you assume the project's dead when it's not, obviously, because you made a banner. You don't make a banner of a dead project.
Exactly.
Right.
I was like a fool if I just made this banner for nothing.
Yeah.
No, but like when writing Ninja Express, I think it was maybe like 5 years before I saw any real movement going with Ninja Express.
Yeah.
So I think like in year 3, that's when I had the first really bad issue. Before I found the current artist we have, Drake Tinta, I had I think 3 artists. So I had my friend who didn't really want to pursue comics as a career.
Mhm.
Then I went towards someone else I knew in college. I knew he was a good artist, so we talked for a while.
Sure.
He did one concept art for me, I never saw him again.
Okay.
And then I had the artist I hired in California.
Right. So a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, so
there.
yeah, and trust me, when you're for any writers just starting out, it can be a very depressing, lonely experience working on a comic by yourself.
Mhm.
Especially if you can't draw, you can't letter, you can't color, just writing, trying to figure out where to go from there.
Right.
It can be very disheartening, lonely experience.
Sure. It's almost by definition a collaborative art form. I think.
Exactly. It's
You
so
need a team.
absolutely. It's
Which is
so
awesome.
rare finding that jack of all trades person that does it all.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that, and then even that, I think it bleeds through more when like good collaboration comes through where it's like, I sort of experienced this with Dennis and Kirk where it's like, Dennis very much talks about the writing and sort of his mindset, but then like, he almost had to kind of like drop the gloves and be like, Kirk, go ahead. Like, you do what you want to do with the art,
Yeah,
from Ross.
absolutely.
And because of that, I think it is so much more of a cohesive comic just because you have these two sort of powerhouses doing what they do best, and I think that's super important in general for comics. Talking about the art style a little bit, it's very reminiscent of a typical anime, but there are moments where it sort of breaks that, and I really like that. I'm gonna see if I can find an example super quick by ruining this display right here. All right, and then so we still haven't hit it. When did you come onto the project?
So I came on to the project. So after seeing that issue, that horrible issue, my first coloring and lettering project was Ruin. And so that was about maybe 6 months.
This is what I was thinking of, this Power Rangers sequence. It's so cool.
That was maybe 6 months, and then after that, pushing that into Image or the comic company we were looking for at the time.
Yeah. I just remember Image.
Yeah. Then we were starting to once Derrick got paired with Drake as an artist, we were starting to push.
Right.
All right, we have a consistent artist now that actually is an art style that we like. All right. This is gonna be played off volume 1. This is gonna be the chapters in it, and let's start coloring a learning list and start making a game plan of when we're gonna release this, how we're gonna plan it out,
Right.
how we're gonna present the book, and what other side products we're gonna have for it.
Right.
So, and we do, and as we were working on it, we were still publishing the first few chapters through Pronto under their title Manga Nation.
Right.
So if you go by if you see Pronto, you'll see Ninja Express in the Manga Nation chapters.
Right.
So technically you could get all I guess except issue 1 because that was the issue the bad issue and I had all those burned.
You tried to. I hope this podcast reaches that one guy who has an issue.
One day.
Yeah.
One day. Sends me a picture of him holding a current
Yeah,
newspaper.
who
are you?
Yeah.
What do you want?
$10,000 and you'll get your first issue back. So when was it released as a graphic novel? When was volume 1?
So I want to say it was 2015 or 2016 January because we got the grant.
Yes.
In 2015, so it was technically 2016 it came out.
Okay. Nice. So it's been out for a bit, and we talked about this a little before the show, but volume 2 we're seeing next year.
Yes.
Yeah. So all the scripts, pencils, inks, done.
Nice.
So
you're well on your way. The hard part's over. It's written.
Yes. Right. So now it's the coloring, lettering part, and then the packaging.
Right. Exactly, and getting it out there and stuff. Actually, the first time I met you, Charles, was when you came by the shop just pushing your comic. You were talking to Demetrius upstairs, and I was in here setting up for this podcast. The podcast didn't even exist yet, and you I remember you were giving him a pitch, and then I walked in, we chatted for a second, and then gave you the podcast card, obviously. And so I'm glad we finally got you on. But I think that's such a testament to what you want to do with it, right? You want to, you put in the legwork. You know what I mean? You go from shop to shop to shop. You gotta hand your comic out and be
yeah, absolutely.
Please sell this.
Always be selling.
I worked really hard on it. Please God, sell my comic. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about the side merch because you mentioned this a little bit before. So we have some lovely postcards here. This is all now available online.
Yes.
And no, it's awesome. So you guys got the T-shirts, postcards, wristbands. Definitely read the book, but if you don't, the art style is really, really cool, and this all the product development looks excellent. I love these little wood stands. This is very Comic-Con right here. How was your guys' Comic-Con in general?
This year it was
So you guys just went as visitors, right?
Yeah, we just went as visitors.
Did you go all 4 days, or?
No, I can't anymore. My feet won't allow it.
we go every year, but it's a lot.
No. It's so much. It's so much. I just went on Thursday this year myself as well. And
that's smart. How was it crowded?
It was pretty crowded.
It was pretty crowded. Thursday?
Thursday is becoming a hot day now, I found.
I guess because it's not crowded on Thursday.
So everyone knows it's Thursday.
Right, or you get assholes like me who, it's funny because my wife kind of is wanting to nudge me into going because I really wasn't going to go this year, but she was like, go take your podcast cards, talk to some local artists, throw your card out there, it's just good. It's, you're managing a podcast in this industry, why would you not go to one of the biggest industry events in the city? And I was like, yeah, you're right. So I think on Tuesday, I bought my pass, went on roll call on Wednesday, picked it up, and then went on Thursday. It was funny because I've said this on the podcast before, but it almost felt like a little bit of a chore, and I was like, oh, I gotta go to Comic-Con, but as soon as I got there, I was like, oh, I'm at Comic-Con, fuck, this is so sick.
I have that exact same feel. When I start hearing that, badge is going on sale soon, it's coming.
Yeah. I start sweating. I don't have any money, I don't know what to do. That's the thing, and I always recommend that on the podcast as well, where it's if you're going to Comic-Con, bring money. Bring money you're gonna have to spend because there's just so much shit that you're gonna want.
That also, buy indie.
Yeah. Yeah, for
absolutely,
sure.
yeah.
For sure, and that's where a lot of my...
Colorist alley see with something that you like there and try to support upcoming artists.
Right, yeah, that was a big part of why I was there as well, was sort of, because like you can't really hand out a podcast card and then not buy the guy's comic. Like, hey, come on my show. Nah, fuck your comic though. Like, it's like you gotta buy a comic too. So I have like a stack of comics from.
A little touching on that. So I did notice as being a tabler now and being a vendor now at anime and comic conventions.
Right.
That there are many times I do get a lot of people asking for advice. Oh, how'd you get started? How'd you get a table? What's this? And I spend like 30 minutes talking to them about it, and they're like, oh, thanks, bye.
Yeah.
Like, don't you want to buy a comic?
Right.
And so yeah, so
I buy something from the
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like $3.
Just give me $1. You don't have to take anything. No,
So yeah, like for any creators out there trying to get started who are going to conventions, trying to find avenues in, trying to get information from creators, support them. Buy something.
Show some fucking etiquette.
Yeah, buy something.
Yeah.
Buy their $3 comic. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. That's what drives me crazy too. It's like $3 or $4, dude. Like just like, wait, you're gonna go buy that Rick and Morty hat instead?
Exactly.
I did also buy a Rick and Morty hat once.
But you know what?
But I did also buy comics. So.
But that's fine. It's the problem. My problem is when people complain about all the mainstream stuff and the reboots
Or
and
not
the
having enough
sequels.
diversity, or not having enough different storylines.
Right.
Exactly. So they always buy
But they're
the
like,
same
later,
thing.
dude, I'm going to the Marvel booth. It's
Exactly.
like, all right.
Exactly.
Well.
And don't get me wrong. I love Marvel. I love DC. I have a lot of their stuff on my shelf.
Sure.
So if I'm gonna buy something from them, I'm definitely gonna go in Artist Alley and try to find something that looks interesting.
Right.
And walk away with some indie book.
Absolutely.
To give it a shot.
No,
Because almost everything big started off as indie. Like Robert Kirkman, probably one of the biggest writers around right now.
Of all time.
Yeah, like he started off with like Battle Pope.
Yeah.
Like,
Shout out to that guy who's reading Battle Pope right now.
but like even so I like his series Invincible more than Walking Dead. And that recently wrapped up.
Yeah.
But Invincible was always on the edge of cancellation
Yeah.
because people wouldn't give it a chance. What is an amazing superhero series?
Yeah.
And now then Walking Dead came along, and that even took a little time to catch on. It took a 3-4
did. I think
years.
once AMC picked up the television rights. I
Yeah,
think
that's
sort of.
what-
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's what blew it up.
Yeah, and that's such an interesting line of shows like fighting to stay on. And there's a few like really recent examples that I've seen like that are sort of in my realm of fandom that have stuck out. Like one being Kevin Smith's Comic Book Man, which was also an AMC show, recently got canceled, and he actually went on one of his podcasts and talked about it recently, and it's super interesting how he was like, we were always struggling, we were always lucky to be renewed for another season, and I think that shows in the show itself. If you watch it, it's like these guys are just lucky to be here, and that's a cool thing to have. Another example is recently ended on Cartoon Network his regular show, which I don't know if either of you guys watch regular show or have watched regular show.
I know.
But this guy J.G. Quintel, like lifelong animator, just a fan of animation, created the show, and sort of 1 year, the first year, Cartoon Network cut everybody's budget, like big time, and everybody's paycheck big time. And he stormed into the office and was like, "Listen, are you trying to push this out slowly? Because if you want to do that, that's fine. But I'll write a last season, I'll end this show right, and then we'll just leave." And the Cartoon Network executive was apparently done, you guys get your full paychecks, finish the show. And so, but I respect that so much as a creator, to be like, no, you're not going to fizzle me out, no, this is
absolutely. I definitely
this is everything to me, so I'm going to do this right if we're going to do this, and I think, it's sort of a term tossed around loosely, but artistic integrity is just so important in this industry. It's like, sticking by your guns, making sure that what you've created goes far, and it's like it goes through being rejected by Image, and it goes through several artists. You know, it's like you're gonna get knocked around a lot, but if you stay true to that vision, I think it's like at least it might not prevail and you might not make millions. Hopefully you will, but like you'll at least make yourself happy. You know what I mean? Like you'll make your project come to life, and I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think everyone who goes into creating a comic book does it just to make lots and lots of money. That's like the one goal.
Yeah, money and chicks.
Absolutely.
So many girls in comics. Yeah. It's like, you write comics? What? Just thinking about that encounter makes my anxiety. Like, yeah, Dubai. Like,
can I watch you write a script? If you're lucky, baby.
Yeah. Top in line.
Watch me burn this bubble.
Derrick Charles out. But you guys, speaking of conventions, going back to that a little bit, you guys are going to Anime Con.
It's actually called Anime NYC. It's actually in the Jacob Javits, the same place as
Is it
Comic Con.
really?
Yep. So if you can
You-
find your way to Comic Con, you
I
can get
think
to
tickets are
Anime NYC.
available. Last year it was very open and very it's not congested.
Yeah, it's not like
Like a
Comic
new
Con.
Yeah, honestly, so it did remind me of Comic Con, like 8-10 years ago. Being able that it's busy, but it's not, as Odra said, congested, packed.
Right, and sort of this grab bag of fans from like who are fans of everything now, because New York Comic Con has just gotten insane with like, because like I mostly went there this year for a lot of like, as far as like I wanted to go and talk to local artists, promote the podcast, whatever, but I also on a personal level wanted to go there for all the video game stuff that was coming out. They had Mega Man 11 there and stuff, and I really wanted to check that stuff out. But because of that, you get like these masses, and so obviously like an anime focused con is going to be
It's definitely more focused anime. They have a lot of voice actors there, so they had a lot of the voice actors from Overwatch last year. So you did see a big video game crowd.
Right.
And I feel like pretty much everything that's in the last few years has been pushed out of Comic Con, like the anime, the video game, found its way into Anime NYC. So that's what you're looking for. That's a good place to go to.
That's awesome. It's weird how confusing the anime convention scene is here. Because we were talking about this before, that Anime Con or whatever it's called runs on top of NYCC.
Yeah. So
and this is now separate.
Well, because I guess for the New York City Comic Con, they wanted to try to compete, I guess, against NYC.
Yeah.
So
why? But
because they used to have both conventions, or at least a portion of that convention, a couple of years ago.
Right.
And then
but
they pushed out the anime scene.
Yeah.
Because then I was like, oh, now it's a new convention. Oh, we need to make our own anime scene again. But
because from what I understand, Anime NYC came out of Comic Con because they used to be part of Comic Con, and then Comic Con took their space away. So the creators made their own anime conventions. Now Comic Con's so successful that was last year, and now they're trying to bring back.
Well, good for them.
anime
They got the
scene.
traction to be able to land the Javits Center. There you go. It's such an awesome facility. It's funny you mentioned the walking though. I remember like I did not pace myself well at all. Like, I was 2 hours in and 7 miles deep, and I was like, oh my god! Like it's the only time I've ever looked at the health tracker on my phone. And
How many miles did I walk?
I know. I was exhausted. The thing that drives me crazy there, and I think this is like the biggest piece of advice I can give, is you gotta leave to go get food because the food there is like way too expensive. And it's disgusting. It just makes you feel like shit. Then you gotta walk around with that in your stomach, and like, I'm there, so I'm walking around with like a Defender IPA, like feeling like shit, like looking like an asshole, like exhausted. I'm sweating profusely. Some creepy old guy next to me is trying to take. Okay, this drove me crazy this year. I have to bring this up, and I haven't brought it up on the show, but I think about it constantly. Is like at Comic-Con, do you see these like really creepy old men who stop like the young, pretty female cosplayers and group them up, and they're like, let me take a picture of you, and they're all like, yeah. It's like, what do you think he's doing with those photos? Like it's insane, and it's like the only place that exists where like the girls are like, yeah, absolutely, you creepy old guy, and he's like, like, and that's why he's there. It's like I saw it constantly this year, and it's just like, it's insane to me that culture is like, and I love cosplayers, like I respect it, like do your thing, but man, it's weird. It's like
So you heard it here first, folks. be a creepy old guy, you want to get some chicks, come to Comic Con.
Yeah, I'm judging you. I'm there, stomach full of chicken tenders, Brooklyn IPA in my hands, looking at you, judging you. No, it's just it's weird, the convention scene now, and you get, I mean, sort of. I think it has to do with like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I guess, but you get like, such a weird yuppie crowd sometimes as well, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely a different crowd. It's a much wider crowd. And the fact that comics, and it's true for the actual comic industry besides just Comic-Con, the actual comic has lost its importance in the scene.
Right.
So the comics are just 32-page pamphlets to advertise the fact that next Captain America movie's coming out.
Right.
And they're written like that. That's why in the Marvel Universe, since Avengers 1 came out, they've spent the last like 10 years fighting Thanos in every big event that they've had.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny, and it's just like such, I don't know, I go back and forth on it so much because at the same time it's like, it's great that this culture is finally getting its time.
Absolutely.
It's awesome that everybody's able to participate in this. I love going to see the Marvel movies.
Same here.
You know, I enjoy those things, but it's like I'm also really into the Immortal Hulk right now. And I've read those, I've been reading those consistently, and like sort of like you want people like that there to sort of be able to engage on that level. So it's a little strange that I don't know, the scenes have merged a little bit of just like guys who take their girlfriends to movies and comic book fans, you know?
Because it's kind of like you have your favorite band, your favorite indie band.
Right.
And you don't want them to get popular, but you
Get
want them to...
blow
Yeah,
I know.
You sold out.
Dude, it's insane because I'm not kidding, I just ran into that. I used to work at the Angelica Film Center for City Cinemas. Used to sweep theaters there, and the movie theater scene was really tight, and one of my managers, and actually the reason I bought Foster's today is a shout out to one of my old managers there because we used to drink Foster's in the office. Oh shit. Yeah, I'm gonna edit that out. He's totally gonna get fired. We did not drink any Foster's in any offices. But it was like I was working there and I went to this other theater that was owned by City Cinemas because we all got free tickets to all the other theaters. And the manager there, his name is Greg. He worked at the Beekman, and I can't remember what we were seeing. Actually, it might have been Civil War, but we were there, and we were talking to him after the show. He's the lead singer in a band called Cigarettes After Sex, which recently blew up. I just went and saw Nick Cave at Barclays Center, and they opened for him, and it was like insane. There was like a huge crowd there going to see him, and I was like, weird. Greg was a manager at a fucking movie theater. Like, he's now huge in the indie rock scene. It's wild, and it's like. It's so weird. That's such a strange thing to see things blow up, and I don't know. It's like I love it. Like I want to see things I love do well, but also like I don't want a Netflix adaptation. You know, like Teen Titans Go. You know, it's like
I want my favorite things to be successful, just not too successful. The
right.
right amount of success.
Yeah, I want them catered to me.
Success with integrity.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I think some things have done it well. Like. I think the Marvel movies do, at the end of the day, still feel like a comic book, and I think that's, you know, a plus sign. I haven't seen Venom yet. We have the poster right there, but I've heard that it feels like a comic book as well. So I think, you know, they're trying their best. It's just you can't help people's perceptions, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I 100% am happy that the movies are bringing more people in.
Right.
Because of like when I originally became a comic fan, I think even before I got my first actual comic, probably the first superhero thing I was exposed to was 90s X-Men.
Nice. That's a big grab.
Yeah, absolutely.
For a lot of people.
Yeah. And when I hear like that gatekeeper society say, "Oh, if you only watch movies, you're not a comic fan, not a superhero fan," that's couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah.
Especially given that not every comic book you're gonna pick up at the comic stores a gem.
Right.
Yeah. Like exactly. You
Absolutely
have to like
not.
hunt through because so many comics come out a month. Obviously, not all of them are good.
Right. Oh,
So-
totally.
yeah.
I mean, it's weird too because then there's these guys at Comic Con who hand out free comics, and it's like, listen, man, I got a stack of comics that I bought at my house that I haven't read yet, that I'm working my way through. Like, if I'm like, I'll take it, but I'm never gonna read this. Like, I promise you. So there's like a separate stack in my apartment that's like comics I will never read. I just have that just collect dust and take up space, but it goes with the territory.
Hey, give them out for Halloween.
That's a good idea.
That's a healthy alternative to candy.
Do you guys got
Comics.
Halloween plans? What are you guys doing for Halloween?
Staying home where it's safe.
Yeah.
I'm probably just gonna buy
I
a
watched The Purge last night. I'm really scared. Like.
I just got an engineering job, so I'm gonna dress up as Derrick Forge.
That's awesome. And do what? Are you like? Are you find a party? Or?
Well, no, I'm gonna work as doing my engineering job as Derrick Forge.
Wow. Okay. Nice. I'm sure a lot of engineers are gonna be dressed up that day too. That's probably. I feel weird dressing up, man. I probably will dress up for Halloween as well and go to work. It's a weird thing because so it's the first time my wife and I have ever lived in like a hugely residential building. There's like 44 units in the building and stuff. Like we normally lived in like little shells. So like like 3 stories.
Yeah.
Like neighbors are assholes, whatever. And it's our first time living in a building like this, and it's awesome. But I really want to know if the kids trick or treat, because like that is amazing. Like my wife and I, first Halloween's married, like handing out candy to kids and dressed up, and like she's from Ireland, so she's never seen Halloween Town, so I want to watch all those. And like I have this awesome vision. I have like this like crazy vision planned, but I don't know if kids trick or treat in our building, and it's just weird to me.
Just hire a bunch of kids, just tell them to come by in 20-minute intervals.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if I hire a bunch of kids and tell them to come by in 20-minute intervals, I'm gonna be fucking arrested, Derek. Like, Jesus Christ. Any weirdos out on Halloween tonight, Dave? Yeah, we got this guy who's ordering kids at 20-minute intervals to come by his apartment, and he's giving them candy. Like, no, I really hope the kids trick or treat though, because
Same,
it's
like,
the best.
'cause
It's
my
so
neighborhood,
fun.
no one trick or treats. I
Yeah.
still get a bag of candy just in case. But come November 1st, I'm okay, now I got a bag of candy, so win-win situation.
Like come November 2nd, it's gone. It's empty.
What have I done?
Yeah. Just got an extra day to hate yourself. No, it's weird. It's just because I grew up down south and stuff, and in the suburbs and that. So like it was like trick or treating was the huge part of Halloween, and so it's weird to come here and like be like, oh, you want to party tonight? And it's like, no, I want to hand out candy. Like, it's maybe I was just lame. Maybe the suburbs were cool too.
I'm just waiting for the after Halloween sales.
Yeah, those are great, dude. I love hitting that CVS aisle
Yes.
the day after Halloween. Everything's like 10 cents. I don't care. Just take it. Like,
I'll take everything.
yeah. But like leading up to Halloween, they get like double the price too. It's
Yeah.
wild.
Find a man. Learn that business.
Mhm.
Business class.
Put
There you
it to
go.
work.
So you guys are gonna have a booth at Anime NYC.
Yes, we're going to be at table M1.
Table
In
M1. We'll
March
throw that in
South.
the description too. So if you guys are going to Anime NYC, definitely go say what's up. Pick up a copy and definitely get it signed and all that shit. I gotta get this copy signed from you guys after I'm done. But so going back to the comic just a little bit here, it honestly does read super cinematically, which I think is more accessible maybe. A lot of like, for example, Dennis Knight's Cross, which I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite independent comics out of Toronto especially, but it feels like a comic book. I feel like this sort of transcends both mediums. Do you think that's intentional, or do you think that just sort of?
So I was definitely, even though it's comic format, I definitely wanted to go for the manga feel.
Right.
And then getting Drake Tinto on board, who's very much inspired by like the old school anime. I think that combination of my writing, his art, definitely is what captured that.
Yeah, absolutely. And sort of, I like the character development a lot. It reminds me a lot of, and don't take offense to this, because I know people who watch the anime are way off on this, but it reminds me a lot of One Piece, because I used to be really into the manga of One Piece. And,
Same, of course.
The character development's fantastic in that. And I think this is certainly reminiscent of that, where it's just like, characters are introduced at an interesting rate, and sort of you're able to understand them and like see their intentions. Like, our main character, he's like just like this kind of like geeky little kid trying to fit in, There's like the leader of like this like fake club who acts like she's like hot shit, you know, but like is also insecure in her own way. Like, you know, I love being able to discover characters like that, and I think that's hard to write too.
I would definitely say it is. I definitely put a focus on that because I do feel that there are many comics where there are times when I'm like, the action's great. I kind of just want to see them sit down and talk for a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
So I definitely try to put a focus. I definitely don't try to put an action scene in every chapter. I kind of view my action scenes as the big budget battle scene at the end of a lot of stories.
Yeah.
So that way, once characters start fighting, you know why they're fighting rather than just explosions and stuff throughout the whole
And people
story.
always criticize this about series like Dragon Ball Z and stuff as well, where it was like, oh, the whole episode come out, it's like finally, like, would you get to it? But it's like, but you still watch it because you're like, I want them to get to it still. So it's like, that's a good thing. Keeping people like waiting for that a little bit, I think, is a sign of good writing in itself. I think that it's funny because I like want this suit that he wears on the cover here. Is it up here as well? Oh no, it's not. But
So we're working on that. We're working on that.
can you get that at the merch store? So sick. Imagine somebody came to your booth dressed like that. That'd be amazing. Yeah, but so Anime NYC, you guys will be there. Any other cons in your near future?
Nothing planned. Usually hit about like 3 or 4 each year. We're trying to get that up. We would like to try and do almost one every other month at least. So
Nice.
I'm trying to get
That'd be hitting the circuit really hard.
Yeah, try it. Because right now we've only done New York.
We've done Anime with we put up in the New York area.
New
White
York
Plains.
area. Yeah.
We may try to get what's the one in the Coliseum in July. Not off my head, but
Yeah, that one. So
If you're going to that one,
it's usually in July. Coliseum.
So yeah, we're looking at different stuff. So usually we do, and we just another tip for creators out there. We just don't only do conventions. We've done holiday markets.
Yes.
We've done book fairs. What was
Super
that?
outside the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And
That's super interesting.
the holiday market was probably our best event.
Really?
Because number one, it was as I said, the holiday market. So it was during December. So people go there looking for a Christmas present. So they're ready to spend.
Mm.
They have the money. They're in that mindset. I'm gonna buy something. Then we were the only comic book there. So if anyone is looking for something to read, and if anyone's an anime or comic fan, and they came across
looking
us,
for their kids or whatnot.
yeah,
Right.
Boom, they
That's so smart because like I was wearing a Naruto shirt, I think. And I was down in Carolina visiting my mom. She was like, "Oh, nice! It's like a Dragon Ball Z character," and that is such a testament to that because you get people like grandmas who walk in and be like, "My grandkid likes shit like that, like whatever that is." Sure, you're like,
Yeah, I'll buy for it.
yeah, exactly. No, that's really smart. That's
like, is this Captain America? Sure.
Yeah, it is now. You get that poor kid on Christmas morning. I got you the Captain America comic. You're like, what the fuck is this?
Just tell them it's a prequel. It'll be fine. They'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah, exactly. As long as he reads it and buys the next one.
Exactly.
No, that's really interesting, and I think I think that might be weird for people to hear almost of like, oh, like, you know, comic book conventions is where you sell comic books, but it's like, no.
Well, I mean, you have to diversify your audience, diversify your market. Try to find new ways of entry. Comic books or any trying to start your own business is a very competitive market. It's a very challenging market. It takes a lot of money and resources and time.
Do you think in comics it's because of saturation even? Like just because there's so many comics coming out constantly?
Perhaps a little bit on that. I mean, you're still also dealing with like trying to break as an indie comic, trying to, in a sense, compete against the mainstream as well. But it's more so of just trying to get eyeballs on anything.
Yeah.
The main thing about trying to get a new customer is why should I care?
And I definitely feel so. I always would joke about this that anime fans are broke because when I was young, most anime fans usually late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
And in my late teens, early 20s, I was broke.
Yeah.
And I was an anime fan. But the thing is, we've noticed we've had much more success at anime conventions than comic conventions.
Right.
And I feel that's because an anime fan, even though they don't have as much money as some of the other bases do, they're willing to try out something new. And I think that's because anime doesn't have that one genre. Yeah, people have a few genres they like shonen, magical girl, slice of life.
Yeah.
But when it comes to comics, if you're a big comic fan, it's usually superhero, which is like 98% of what you would buy, and then everything else.
Sure.
So if you're a comic fan, you're coming to Comic-Con to look for something, you probably already know what you want. Like, I'm either Marvel or DC.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get something from Image because Spawn's cool.
Yeah.
But for the most part, that's what I want.
Right, and then hit the merch tables. And
yeah, exactly. But then you go to Artist Alley, you might get a pin-up, you might get some type of poster. But I don't think at a lot of comic conventions, you're willing to give the indie book a chance. So our book, our volume 1, is priced at $20.
Right.
And I think that's a decent price for a book. But there's a lot of Marvel, DC, more.
It's also a pretty big book. Like you're getting a lot out of that.
Yeah, but like I guess since they can print at such high volumes, they have trades down to like close to like $10.
Right.
So I do get it. Giving $20 to something you never heard of is a big investment for anyone.
Right.
Especially when you probably go to a convention only looking to spend $100 maybe. Because I know that I usually try. Okay, I'm spend $100.
I got cash out before I went. I was like, this is all I have.
Exactly. You don't want to, because when I was first going to con scenes,
Anime
like wait, I only had $200 in my bank account. Oh,
all I got is 60 pins.
So I do get that. I really do.
Yeah.
But I do feel that anime fans, like I said, they're willing to give different stuff a chance over a comic fan who's really more into the superhero stuff. And that doesn't make me want to try to write something superhero related, but which I currently am working on, something superhero related. But it's definitely going to be something. No, it's not going to be how a mainstream superhero story would go.
Nice.
Whenever I write something, I always try to put my own spin on it.
Mm-hmm.
So with Ninja Express, obviously a big part of inspiration comes from shonens.
Right.
So I want to eventually get into like screaming to gain power, level ups, power levels, rivals. But I want it to be almost aware of that and try to say, okay, so usually the main character, he's infallible, he's this, he's that. So I want to give my main character Taki flaws. I want him to not always be the bastion of virtue that most shonen heroes are.
Right.
And as we go on, we're going to see some of that. Yeah. I don't want Sayaka, the female lead, to look really cool, and since she's a female character, always be the damsel in distress. That a lot of shonens do.
Yeah.
Even the ones that have a big female cast.
Right.
Usually the top 3 characters in any shonen. Just think about any shonen. You name top 3 strongest characters, it's always going to be 3 guys. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to make her strong. I wanted to make all my characters. I didn't want to have. Oh, that's another thing. I didn't want to have one main protagonist, a giant chasm, than the rest of the cast. Yeah. I want to try to keep everyone.
Yeah, keep everybody in the loop a little
in the
bit.
same.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason I like Otaki so much is as sort of the protagonist of this is just his crippling kind of anxiety. I think that's such a satisfying thing to see in a comic where it's guys, I just want to make this club so I can feel good about myself again. That's like inspiring to a degree, like where it's like I feel like, and you should write what you want to write, and you should write about what you want to write, but anything that can sort of guide youth or guide people who are fans of this into sort of a better way of thinking, I think is always positive. And I think I think there's some of that in this comic as well. You know what I mean? It's like you're pushing again, sort of shonen with the your female protagonist who is strong and isn't a damsel in distress, and like I don't know, and I think there's a big thing, and we could talk all day about sort of like gender and race in film and cinema and in books and whatever, and we would end up where we started. But I think that that's sort of like the change that needs to happen is just including these people isn't enough. Like that's not, casting these people isn't enough. It's like they need to be how they are in real life, which is empowered in themselves, and it's like I think that you doing that sort of, you're changing the world, man. Or you're trying to, you're doing your own
That's
things,
what I set out to do.
Right.
That and the
Change
money and the chicks, of course. So changing the world, money, chicks.
Yeah. Look out for Derrick Charles' autobiography, How I Changed the World with Money and Chicks, a comic man's story.
But I go on to that. I mean, one of the most favorite chapters in Volume 1 that I like lettering was Chapter 6. Try to avoid any spoilers in it, but I think that's one of the main points where Otaki really looked into himself.
Right.
And there was one panel which had pretty much a whole bunch of word balloons describing how he felt about himself.
Right.
And I think that was like really the most, pure to character moment.
Right.
To have in the story. I think this is supposed to be our hero, but this is
But he's super insecure about these things, yeah. No, and that's like I feel like that is one of the most important things we could address too. It's just like it's totally okay to be anxious about everything always. You know what I mean? Especially in youth, because it's like you run into situations all the time where it's you are instantly out of your comfort zone, and like there's sort of this natural need to like recoil into yourself and sort of be like, oh, I'm such a fucking idiot, like. But it's like no, it's okay, it's cool, like go forward. And I think that scene in particular, if I'm remembering the right section as you, is particularly prominent.
Yeah,
stuck out.
Yeah, so far that's probably one of my favorite things I have written in the past.
Yeah.
I know there's a scene coming up in a future volume that deals with Sayaka that I am hoping to top that emotional payoff that I got in Volume 1, and I'm really looking forward to writing it.
Yeah, nice. That's something to look forward to for sure. Well, we should probably wrap it up, but listen, thank you guys so much for bringing all this stuff out and talking about the book. And so we'll do a brief recap. Anime NYC, you guys are going to be there.
Yeah, and which is from the 16th to the 18th, or 17th?
Yeah, 16th to the 18th.
16th to the 18th. Volume 2, look out for it next year sometime. It's coming soon, obviously. Look out for new projects out of you. And listen, thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thanks for
You
having
can
us.
find us on our website, ninjaexpresscomic.com.
Awesome. That'll all be linked in the description as well, so just go to the bottom of this. Pick up merch, postcards, t-shirts, wristbands, the book itself.
If you want a wristband.
Oh my goodness, thank you very much. Oh wow, holy shit. Holy shit. I've never been True Ninja approved before.
Can't say that anymore.
Yeah. Wow. I feel different. So you guys should definitely get some of these wristbands. And it's got the website on it too in case I forget. So it's like boom. Awesome. Alrighty, well thank you guys again so much, and we're looking forward to seeing what else comes out of you guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks guys.
Woo!
Alrighty.